request and then I'll make a promise. Can everyone stand up? Good. Stand, and just feel free to stand while I introduce myself, stretch. It's been a long day. So a few things. We're going to make this fun. We're going to make this quick. We're going to bring it back to time. And Professor Dutt, his talk was amazing. I really liked it. But he jokingly said that he's going to talk about data and not about people. I want to switch that. We want to talk about people, not about data. Right? We need the human element here. And I'm going to push these guys to step away from all the e-commerce and talk about consumers, all of us, and the future us. Little bit about myself and the Center for the Edge. We're a small think tank. We're out of Silicon Valley, and we are the futurists for Deloitte. I pull my hair out, that's why I end up looking like this. And we're technology agnostic. Ironically, everyone says, oh, Silicon Valley, what about this trend or that trend? We're technology agnostic. We want to track the big trends that consumers are gaining more power, how ecosystems are pushing corporates out, stuff like that, which are all enabled by technology, but not technology itself. So I'm going to push all of these guys to represent their countries and talk about the future consumer, how it's going to impact us. Now, Joanne, when she invited me, wanted me to talk about Silicon Valley and bring that to us. But here's one thing about the West to the East. We in the West are really ignorant about Asia. We know so little about you. And one of the biggest reasons I said yes, one is because a purple-haired lady wanted me to come. The other was to learn. We need to learn more. And I'm actually trying to set up a Center for the Edge in Asia to showcase the East to the rest, because there's a lot we don't know. But to start this off, she wanted me to bring some provocations, some provocations. These are things to think about. One is that corporations are being overtaken by ecosystems. Think of Airbnb versus Marriott. Think of Uber versus any other taxi companies. That's driven by consumers having unmet needs. And these ecosystems are a much better way to address those unmet needs. It's asset light, and you can treat each consumer and each customer differently. So are there similarities like that in the East? A second is that we're moving, at least from the West, from selling things to selling meaning. If you go on the Airbnb website today, they don't showcase all of the best hotels or rooms or spaces. They talk about experiences. They did a whole refresh talking about Airbnb is all about belonging, not about getting the cheaper or better room. They're fundamentally changing. About 2 years ago, Patagonia, they make clothing, ran a full-page ad in all the major newspapers saying, don't buy this jacket, showcasing one of their own jackets, and telling you exactly how much it costs to make that thing and why you shouldn't keep buying it. They're going away from consumerism to sustainability, to reuse, to recycling. Ironically, people bought into the idea and their sales have gone up four times. But they're selling meaning. Facebook is getting beaten up, and they made beaten up because of all this, the manipulation of social media, and they are intentionally taking a hit to their revenue to do better. Mark Zuckerberg wrote a long piece to all his employees, and he said, are we building the world that we want to live in? With the obvious answer of no, and therefore saying that we're going to take a hit in order to do the right thing. So we're from things to, so first we're moving from corporations to ecosystems. What does that mean? Two, we're moving from things to meaning. And the last is we're moving from generic products to bespoke, craft, artisan. Now that's more on the high end right now, but as platforms become prevalent, it becomes easier and easier to do that. And this whole discussion about fourth industrial revolution, more and more of manufacturing at the large scale is going to get automated and roboticized. We need less people and less labor. Most of that labor will be in that craft, artisan, bespoke, taking it and addressing it to niche needs. So you guys can sit. We'll start the panel now. we heard a lot about leapfrogging, right? We heard a lot about ASEAN's going to be the next big thing. Is that really going to happen? I want to ask these guys if that's really going to happen. Give me examples of leapfrogging. Is there going to be an M-Pesa? Is there going to be a WeChat? Is there going to be a Grameen? Something that the East will teach the West? We heard a lot about inequality. Are consumers here going to be different from the consumers in the East and the West? So why don't we get started? So here's how we're going to run it. I'll ask one or two broad questions so we can get the difference across the countries and the similarities. And then we'll run a fun thing that I call popcorn questions. So that'll be fun. And then we'll get questions from you. So please do send your questions as you have them. And we'll finish with some last thoughts. So let's see now. Given those provocations, given this whole thing that ASEAN is going to be big, and give me some examples of why you are bullish about consumers in the country that you're representing, and why you think you might leapfrog. Now let anyone start. Would you like to start?
Yep.
Okay.
I think a lot of things damage if we are talking about related to the digital users in Indonesia. I mean, out of more than 260 million people is actually disconnect to the digital things. For example, only about 32% of the population in Indonesia is actually bankable. Can you imagine that? So why this is the broken space in this particular can be also has opportunities to the fintech industry. That's one. Second, it's about how big the agro business in Indonesia. How big the fishery industry in Indonesia. At the moment on the e-commerce, they started with the only tertiary product. It's not come to the level of the secondary and primary product. If we can analogize that the fishery and also the agro business is actually representing secondary and primary products in this particular, that's a huge opportunity to make it living frog in this particular. But the good part is actually for the last 3 years, the startup company in Indonesia been already showing the good cases. How they made it the leapfrog on the business model. For example, what we did in the country is for the Gojek, right? Gojek is actually changed, not building about the ecosystem of the digital or e-commerce or the fintech or the ride hailing, etc. No, but what they are building is actually changing the behavior experience on the consumers. So can you imagine for the last 3 years in the beginnings that Gojek being resisted by the incumbent business, conventional business, either the taxi business or even the ojeks riders and the conventionals, but no one can stop because the society, the people have been already take the benefit from this. So with the good experience in Indonesia, remember last year we have been already 3 unicorn in the startup: Gojek, Traveloka, Tokopedia. Actually, we are coming in. Another one is actually Bukalapak, right? But the most interesting is that to give the uniqueness value proposition to the consumer is actually Gojek. Yeah. And then referring to my statement before, what is the broken space on the industry, like the people, unbankable populations so huge, the agro business and also the fisheries in there. I mean, so there's an empty space to make it something new model, the most ideal for the country, and then get the momentum of the consumers, and then offering the trends to the consumer behaviors on that sector. I do believe that's already make it immediate, can change the world in Indonesia from this.
So Gojek is a very good example where it is different and it is something that the West can learn from the East. James, Is there a Gojek equivalent in the Philippines? Or, I mean, you mentioned even your own bank, the most APIs. Maybe that's something different, being open. I don't know.
Yeah, well, for us, well, let me take it down to the regional level first. In terms of potential, with what we have right now at 1%, yes, there's huge potential. Imagine converting those businesses that are registered to go into e-commerce. Mind you, what I said earlier was just the registered. There are about 10 million more unregistered businesses. Those are the mom and pop stores.
Yep.
Potential, yes. There's this, I'll give you two examples. There's this professor and his students in one province, and all they do is painting. They have good painters, the professor's an art teacher, and the students are painting beautiful paintings, and they sell it every Sunday in the local market. The teacher said, I wanna give something back to my students. Is there any way we can help them? Will e-commerce help us and the business of our students? Then I say, let's put your paintings online. Let's set up a business for you online, and let's see where it goes from there. Guess what? They're selling nationwide now, and they can't keep up with the demand. All their paintings are gone. The first few months that they posted it, they were gone. They were sold out. One hotel bought almost all their paintings and put it on their hotel. Another one was selling, I don't know, it's a local bagoong, it's a local delicacy in the Philippines, shrimp paste. And he said, I don't think this will be for online. I don't think everything can be online. I said, who knows? Why don't we put it online? Let's see where it goes from there. Where are you selling now? I sell in 2 barrios, in 2 small towns, and I'm making good business. How many bottles do you sell a day? About 5 to 10 a day. Okay, let's put it online and see where it goes from there. He's making 300 bottles a day now, selling online. And that really changed the mindset of those smaller ones that think they can't go bigger than where they are now. So potential-wise, yes, infrastructure, there's so much things that we need to develop there, as mentioned earlier. Like in the Philippines, the disconnect there is that there are more phones than Filipinos. We have about 130 million phones in the Philippines, and there's only 110 million population. 40% of those are online. 40% of those with smartphones are online. And mind you, we saw the Google report. It's about, Filipinos spend about 5 hours a day on their phones, mostly on social media. But imagine if your product is present there.
Right.
That gives you the exposure of over 41 million people looking at your product and buying and the capability of buying it online. So to leapfrog, there's so many possibilities for the MSMEs. I've seen other services ongoing in the Philippines, like there's this, you've heard of Uber, right? Mm-hmm. There's an Uber for nurses and home care services in the Philippines where you can order and have a nurse come over to your place when needed for home care. So there's so many things that are out there that we can see potential in, and we're just small step towards getting there.
I do see that if you make this successful and getting all the micro people online and successful, that could showcase a whole different piece of the landscape. Eric talked a lot about Singapore, lots of really good things. What is uniquely different, or what could folks learn from either Lazada or Singapore? What's the future customer going to look like?
Good question. Of course, Singapore very different from the other countries.
Right.
Way more developed country. But still, if you look, for example, at e-commerce penetration rate, only about 4%, whereas in China, in the West, it's more between 14 and 17%. So still a lot of potential to grow there. I think there are maybe 2 interesting things which are different between the different countries for consumers. So if you think about a country like Indonesia, people living in relatively remote villages, they have access to a traditional retailer who, for example, has 3 different brands of rice cookers, 2 local, 1 international, with 3 different models each, because it's a small town and it's also a small store. Mm-hmm. So the moment that they get connected to the internet and have access to Lazada, all of a sudden they have options ranging from 1,000+ different rice cookers from multiple brands, local, from other countries, from China, etc. So there's a lot of opening of choice, basically, for these customers. Whereas in Singapore, of course, we're already used to having a lot of choice.
Right.
It's a very open market, basically a mall on every corner of the street. So I think here, how we have to treat the customer differently is actually making sure that we guide them, making a choice between all these different options. And I think this is where e-commerce with personalization really is key, where we basically make sure that we anticipate what the customer wants to buy and give them the right product basically on the first few clicks to make sure they can easily find what they're looking for. It's impossible in Singapore to have 5 million personal shopping assistants, but actually online it is.
Good point. Ho, you mentioned a few interesting things which are different. One was that a large number of the Vietnamese would search online and then physically go to the store to buy it. And another, which is very different, in the US it's the opposite. You go to the store, you look at it, and then you search on Amazon to see the cheapest price. And you just order on Amazon and not buy it at the store, right? So that is odd. And you also said that 90% of the sales is cash on delivery. In the context of this, is there something that Vietnam can teach the rest of the world? Is there something uniquely coming out of that market from those consumers?
Okay, talk about why they come to the store. Actually, because let's say a few years recently, let's say a lot of sellers, they sell the item actually is not correct like what they say on the online. That's a trouble, something very trouble with the consumer. So that's why they want to see the item before they make the purchasing. And also some in category, they want to get experience on that item before make the purchasing. And but that's just one of the thing, because also the big brand, they until now they are not the big brand, they go online. So that's why the consumer, when a big brand they go online, they have a lot of store. The store it's like in the US, you know, like a big retail, they have the chain retail cover the whole country nationwide. That's why they also write them online. They go to the offline and they want to upsell on the offline as well. That's the behavior of. And another thing about like, but in recently the live stream is very popular in Vietnam, and they train the behavior of the consumer. They see the real item in the live stream, and they can, okay, now I can make the purchasing. Because I see the item is the real, because you run the live stream on Facebook, that's the consumer of the behavior. And I read about the cash on delivery, why it's over 90%. The same case I just told. A few years ago, the ready cash is the payment online fintech in Vietnam is not ready. So that's why they want how to solve the online, the cash on delivery, we solve that trouble. But with cash on delivery, is already educate the consumer. They want to deliver the item and receive the item, and I want to make sure the item and pay on the cash, and keep the behavior of consumer. They don't want to change. And they say, okay, this good, better for me. Why I have to pay on the online? So just deliver to my house and see the item and pay it on the cash. So it's already educated many years, and now the consumer, they keep behavior very hard to change.
So some of those things that we see, some of those needs that are different from country to country could end up leading to new models that don't exist today. Actually, both Eric and you both mentioned the selling through live stream, which we don't see a lot in the US, but it seems like it's much more prevalent over here. Okay, Carson, so you got Thailand and Malaysia both. And one of the things we discussed before was, if you think of the advertising, Thai advertising is the most provocative, emotionally driven advertising that I've come across. So, but maybe it's that, maybe it's that. What is Thailand or Malaysia going to bring to the world that's different?
Yeah, basically then this actually we back to the culture of Thailand, especially for Thai people. I put it this way, Thai people is very emotional. And emotional, that means they're really sensitive and emotional. Okay, I'm not Thai, but I've been staying in Thai for some time. So, and those, especially for today, the consumer, so when if they want them to trust them, they need to get touched. They need to see something that really touches the heart, and then they can stay forever with you. So in Thailand, when someone that call you a real bro, it means a real bro. Then they will actually work with you together, and then along with you together, and then for life. And this is Thai culture. But when you talk about Malaysia, then it will be something different, right? It's quite similar to Singapore, and we are just across the border. So Malaysian, basically, we have put it this way. The challenge in Malaysia, we have 3 different big races. And different races having a different thinking, different mindset, and different culture. So when we do, let's say today we send a content, we send a message out to Malaysian, and it's difficult to fit all 3 different races together to make everyone accept. So it may many times that most of the brands, they need to have different content to suit different races. So this is actually the different way of, from Thailand and Malaysia. In Thailand, sensitive, right content, creative content, that is something that will make you work. And in Malaysia, you really need to try to find about the best way in order to suit which races is it.
Interesting. Actually, you mentioned some of that too. Actually, you did a really good quote. Brand will be disrupted by friends, which is similar to kind of the moving from things to meaning. So the next question that I want to get kind of across everyone, and then they'll move on to different things. Tell us something that we don't know about the country you represent. Tell us something that will surprise us in 5 years, that will surprise us. What's something hidden that gets past a stereotype? And I didn't invite anyone to get started on this. Don't want to put Hadi on the hot spot. We'll put in the hot spot for the next one. What will surprise us?
Good question. Actually, especially in Thailand, right? Most of the business is centralized in Bangkok. And outside Bangkok is actually, we will see a big gap compared Bangkok and outside Bangkok. And today, actually, what actually today the government try to do is to how to help people outside Bangkok and to be success.
Yep.
So of course, Thailand 4.0 is one of the strategy that they're trying to do. And of course, the government trying to encourage more innovation company, tech company, to be helping people who outside the Thailand, how they can grow the business through technology. Because of outside Thailand, of course, when we talk about logistics, when we talk about the locations, it may not be really having an advantage on that. So then technology is a part that actually will helping on it. So of course, when we're saying that how the government actually trying to help, like example, they're giving a lot of opportunity, the grant or even the corporate tax free for the startup. This is where actually they are trying to build the thing for it.
Anyone else with any surprises that?
I can add from my experience from the regional visits that I have with the MSMEs. I've discovered most of the products that they produce are shipped abroad and renamed under a bigger brand.
Yeah.
When I first saw some of the products, like there's this particular one in the province of Davao. She made beautiful handmade bags. Everything was made out of local, very exotic materials, well crafted, and it started out with a family business and it grew. And they were very well designed. And according to her, a tourist visit, bought several bags, brought it back to the US, pitched the idea to a bigger brand, and then the company flew back in and told her, we will buy all your bags. But you will produce the bags for them exclusively, and you cannot sell anymore locally under your name.
Under your name.
So while she was small, she said, yes, sure, that seems like a good deal because I don't have to think about finding my market anymore. It's already a sold deal. But now that she's big, she wants to
get back,
but again, she's still under the contract. She's worried about moving it. But there's so many of those MSMEs that have really good products, but don't have just the opportunity in the beginning. Hopefully, getting themselves on e-commerce and giving them all the technology to start with will create their own brand and hopefully
So you predict that there will be some big wins from the MSMEs that we don't know of yet.
Yes.
Okay.
Also, an interesting fact, which might surprise you. So, if we think about customer behavior online, we actually see it in all of Southeast Asia. People shop during working hours, with one exception, which is Singapore, actually. So in Singapore, we see a recent study from iPress actually show that purchasing actually ramped up starting maybe 4 p.m., really coming to full speed at 6 p.m. And with actually its peak at 10 p.m. And now I know that basically shopping hours of most of the malls here in Singapore are pretty generous, but 10 a.m. or 10 p.m. they actually close. So if that is the peak, and actually shopping continues to 2 a.m., it's actually quite an interesting thing for SMEs to know that actually expanding, for example, their sales also to online, doing both offline and online, they can really capture the whole customer demand that is also in the late hours.
Interesting. Well, I promise to stop on time, so we already have time, so we got to do something fun. Popcorn questions, right? Here's how it works. I'm going to say a phrase or a word, and everyone here has to respond with the first thing that comes to mind. And we're going to go back and forth with a few things. So we'll start with something easy. Favorite food?
Chicken.
Salted fish crackers.
I hope I pronounce it correctly. Young road char.
Beef. Nasi lemak.
Right, now we'll go this other way. Favorite city?
Oh, Kuala Lumpur, of course.
Okay.
Bangkok.
Singapore.
Of course, I'll have to say Manila.
So now everybody's obliged.
Barcelona.
Oh, well,
Barcelona.
different. Let's make it a little harder. China. Response.
Cheap product.
Manufacturing.
From replication to now innovation.
Okay.
Manufacturing.
Big.
Millennials.
Oh, young.
Fast.
Choice.
Challenging.
Challenge.
Expensive.
Okay. Climate control. Climate change.
Disaster.
Problem.
Massive issue.
Problem.
Okay. Anyone else want to throw out one last thing for them to popcorn on? ASEAN. Good one.
Oh, growth.
No idea.
Opportunity.
Yeah. Watch out, world.
Oh, okay.
Money will come.
Interesting. So now you've gotten to know your panelists better. They will be here. There will be food and drinks, I believe. So you can ask more questions that we couldn't. But I do want to thank you for joining us. It's been a long day. It's been really great to have you. I've learned a lot. Any final thoughts? Anything that wasn't said that you feel needs to be heard?
Investing to Indonesia. It's a huge opportunities. Because that's becoming not in the beginning is only targeted in the C+ class, B and A, but the next is actually C and D class. That's the huge potentials population in Indonesia. So come to Indonesia and bring the money.
Well, he made a plug for Indonesia. Anyone else want to make a final?
So I think we've seen from the different presentations a lot of probably words that you haven't heard before, a lot of innovation, a lot of things happening. I think rest assured that, of course, every company is struggling with the same questions on how to jump into all these developments. And I think it's good to know that there are different companies, for example, who can really help you and the different companies to really latch on and make the best out of it and make it a big success for themselves.
Welcome to Bangkok.
Well, thank you, everyone, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to our moderator, Duleesha Kulasooriya. Many, many thanks for that.